Try now.
All right, can people hear us? How will I know?
Why don't you pull the microphone over closer?
Shouldn't need to, though. Oh,
got a
got a
yes.
thumb up?
Yeah,
Great.
got a yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, so let's open up any general comments to the public. Again, we'll ask that people limit their comments to 3 minutes or less. Are there any individuals that like to speak now on items that are on the agenda? All right, seeing as there are none, we'll move on to the regular meeting agenda. First up, Parks and Recreation Activities, report on Granada Community Park and Recreation Center.
All right, Ray, you want to provide an update?
Yes, please. Good evening, board members. This is Ray Razavi, the project manager for Granada Community Park and Rec Center. Happy to report that in mid-May, we completed the initial study, negative declaration for the project. We advertised the notice of intent and a notice of availability for a comment period of 30 days. The comment period ended last Monday. We have received a total of 70 comments, and we are currently reviewing those comments. Most of the comments are regarding parking. There's some comments about the riparian areas, impact to the preschool, and various other amenities that we have in the park. We're going to review these comments and provide responses, and we'll provide you with an update at the next board meeting as to how those comments entailed and what the responses have been. If you have any questions.
Thanks, Ray. So just to repeat, we will address the comments made by the public during next month's board meeting.
That is the intent.
Great, very good. Do any of the board members have any questions or comments for Ray?
I have some comment, oh, not for Ray, but I have some comments on this issue that I'd like to share.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm Barbara Dye. I've been on this board for, 6-7 years, and I've been part of this process. And I'm very proud of the work we've done to create this draft plan and the way our board has engaged the community in every aspect of the project. The next decision we face is whether or not the initial study, mitigated negative declaration done by an independent consultant, adequately reviewed the project. This is the project that we voted to submit for environmental review in April of 2023. It was a 4-to-1 vote to proceed with the environmental review process for the draft plan, with the dissenting vote coming from Jill Grant, elected to the board in the fall of 2022, after much of the community outreach was done. The project is not being reviewed for possible redesign right now, although there will be opportunities later in the process for that. I want to emphasize that it is not the draft park plan that is being reviewed now. It is the independent environmental review of the project that is being circulated. Because we have worked very hard with the community, I'd like to go through the timeline of how we have managed our process. We have focused on the people of GCSD, the ones that we represent. The work really started in the 1990s when community members concerned that there was very little park space for El Granada pushed to have the land by the coast preserved from development. The then sanitary district purchased the land that we call the Burnham Strip and buried some tanks underground. The park supporters then led a long effort to convert the sanitary district to a community services district so that the property tax revenues could be used for park development. All their hard work, which included knocking on doors throughout the community, resulted in a successful vote in 2014 to create the Granada Community Services District. Many of the leaders of that effort envisioned a park like Marina Green in San Francisco with a green lawn on the strip. In early 2015, an initial community parks and recreation survey created by a professional park professor was sent to 2,335 addresses. It received 609 responses, a very good percentage. The report compiled on the survey is posted on the website, and interestingly, the top items supported by the respondents, except for a swimming pool, which was not practical on the site, are all in the draft plan. 66% said that a community recreation center was very or moderately important. In 2017, the San Mateo Resource Conservation District, who are officially the environmental arm for GCSD, submitted the Burnham Strip Natural Resources Management Plan. The GCSD board approved the plan unanimously. GCSD has continued to work with the RCD ever since, following its advice on lots of environmental issues. Also in 2017, in order to get the project underway, well-respected local landscape architects K&K Design Group were hired to provide 3 possible layouts just to get the process started. Those layouts were reviewed by the board, the Parks Advisory Committee, which played a vital role in the process. That's another group of local residents who were appointed to that committee. The options were included in a mailing to the entire community seeking input. It was made available. We all had a booth down on the strip to show people the plans, and based on all that feedback, the Parks Advisory Committee and the board discussed various possibilities at multiple meetings. In 2019, a second community survey was mailed to 1,905 households, and 508 responses were received. A detailed report on the results of that survey is also posted on the website. All of the park needs that were close to or higher than 50% are included in the current draft plan. 66% said a community recreation center was very or moderately important. Many community members would have liked active sports like pickleball, but an analysis showed that the site was so windy that any ball games would have required walls around the courts, which would block protected coastal views. To meet the need for active sports while protecting views, the board agreed that there would be a basketball half-court, a lawn suitable for frisbees and pickup games, that the jetty ramp would remain, and that we would add another small skate feature. There would be exercise stations around the perimeter and playgrounds for big and small kids. Residents requested a dog park, so 2 were added for large and small dogs. Trails would be decomposed granite or gravel and would circle and cross the park, as well as extend to the corner of Coronado and Highway 1. The parking lot, and this is really important, could not remain where it was because of the required setback from the southern wetland area. So it was moved north, next to the bathroom building. That parking lot, in addition to 11 angled spots where the lot is now, would provide 35 parking places, very close to the number available on the current dirt lot, though it's not quite as many, with 60 additional spots along the Obispo, not in the adjacent neighborhoods. At the recommendation of, and I want to just emphasize again that the parking lot, if anything is done in the strip, the parking lot cannot stay where it is because of the required wetland setback. At the recommendation of the RCD, the 2 drainages on the park part of the property will be made more sinuous to improve water quality, and a much larger area around them will be restored to riparian habitat. Since both drain over to Surfers Beach and the harbor, this will hopefully be a big improvement to water quality. Outreach continued through 2019. A workshop was held at Granada Elementary School where teams of residents, 50-plus participants, laid out their own design. It was really cool. Everybody sort of had a template, and they could figure out what they wanted and where it would go. And so that also helped us figure out how to balance active versus passive recreation and the environmental issues. Based on all the input, K&K provided a draft plan, which the board approved for public review. That's the first time the mat was placed at the foot of Portola Avenue, and a postcard was mailed to all households, letting people know that the plan was there and soliciting comments. 92 comments were received, and it stayed there until it was replaced by a modified plan in 2024. In 2020, the board hired a local architect to review the old fire station for suitability for a community center. The board reviewed the report, which said that the building was not ideal. It was also not on the market, which is true to this day. During 2021 and 22, the board approved numerous contracts for project review with civil engineers, architects, environmental review consultants, et cetera. Monthly meetings started, and we started working on plans for the proposed renovation of the Picasso building, which I understand is still something people have major concerns about, and I'm sure you will express your opinion on that. In April of 2023, the board voted to combine the Park and Recreation Center projects, to approve them both as drafts, and to authorize preparation of the environmental review for the project. It was a 4-to-1 vote again. After this point, much of the work was done by consultants, and this is the thing, for the last year, it's kind of disappeared from public thing because these independent consultants have been doing their environmental review. They follow the regulations outlined by the CEQA Act. They look at maximum possible impacts, such as the largest number of events that could be held in a single day, not what is expected to occur, so that their analysis does not underestimate the impacts. They're trying to do an accurate job. And here are the whole areas. I'm just going to read this quick list of the things that they cover in this document, which is available for your review. Aesthetics, biological resources, geology and soils, hydrology, water quality, noise, recreation, utilities, service systems, agriculture and forestry resources, cultural resources, greenhouse gas emissions, land use and planning, population and housing, transportation, wildfire, air quality, energy, hazards and hazardous materials, mineral resources, public services, tribal cultural resources, and then some more mandatory findings. So that's what they've been working on for the past year plus. We get reports on progress, but the board is not at all involved in the work and the analysis that's being done. And of course, now there's been these changes on parking based on the Caltrans project to remove the parking there. GCSD has no control over these decisions. I know some people would like GCSD to change the draft plan to replace park features with more parking to serve Half Moon Bay's beach in the harbor area. No matter what happens, the parking lot cannot remain where it is now because of the required setback. When GCSD surveyed the community about the amount of parking, the respondents chose about the same. So Caltrans could and should perhaps provide parking in the right-of-way. The harbor could add some on its properties. We should work together to solve the parking problems. The decision point for the draft park plan is not now, although comments are certainly welcome. I want to emphasize the point that the next decision GCSD has will be to certify the MND as adequately analyzing the draft plan that was developed over many years with the community and approved by the board in April of 2023. Comments submitted should address the environmental review of the draft project. After this is done, GCSD will submit the plan to the county for further review. The Midcoast Community Council will have a full presentation of the draft plan and the reasons why some decisions were made, and the opportunity to ask as many questions as they would like. There will be a use permit issued by the county after a public hearing, which will limit the number and type of events and specify the review process for each. The coastal development permit process will be noticed, and there will be more opportunities for people to engage, and potentially there could be redesign of the project at that time. If GCSD votes to certify the mitigated negative declaration, we will start work on the next phases of the project. We will focus on financial management and security plans. We will be applying for grants. We will restart the Parks Advisory Committee to provide additional ways for people to participate. I just wanted to say all this because I want people to understand that we've worked very hard to produce this draft plan, and your feedback is welcome, and I just wanted to make sure that people understand the process that is underway right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Nye. I
would like to make some comments.
I think Dr. Grant had her hand raised first, so I want to honor that.
I would really like to hear the public comment. I know a lot of people can't stay on the line very long, so is it possible to have them comment first and have the board go later?
I don't know that. Can we do that? Yeah, okay, sure. We'll open it up to the public then first and then come back to the board. I can't see who that is.
DJ Anderson.
DJ Anderson, would you like to speak?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep my light on. Thank you very much. And I do appreciate all the time and effort that has gone into the project. The question is the project approved? And no, okay, thank you. And how do I get involved as a homeowner in El Granada to understand what the process is? I've been on the website. I'm a relatively intelligent person, and I can't see when the next stage is for approvals and how I follow the process.
Can I ask You outline that for us?
Yeah, so the project is not approved, as someone shook their head. So this is basically a technical document that assesses the environmental impacts, as Barbara pointed out, noise and plants and things like that. After this document is approved, it's able to go to the county for a coastal development permit in accordance with the local coastal plan. And at that point in time, again, as Barbara said, you'll have a chance to comment and look at what's being proposed. The county will have their comments on it based on their review of the plan itself, plus the environmental documentation. So
And when is that? When will that?
and that's not scheduled yet. The first step is to approve this document, and then we will go meet with the county. We'll have a public hearing at that point in time with the county, and then we'll move forward with that and interact with them. And then they will have a noticed public hearing at the time they have to approve the coastal development permit. And to your maybe broader point, you can always call us if you have any questions here at the office, give Hope a call or whatnot.
Okay, great.
And-
Yeah,
and-
Hope's been awesome. Super
Yeah, one
responsive.
thing I'll do is I'll put together a project steps timeline. We have one somewhere, but maybe it's a good idea, based on what you said, you go to the website, just a very simplistic, simple step. We can do
That
that.
would be amazing. Thank you.
Where's the list of additional permits? There's a list.
That's why I say we have it somewhere, but I don't have it at my fingertips here.
Great, thanks, Chuck. So you'll put that out there for the public. All right, I think we have another comment. I can't read that far away, I'm sorry.
It's Kate Broderick.
Thanks, Kate.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Yeah, my name is Kate Broderick. I grew up here on the coast and I returned here to raise my family. I understand that this is just the environmental impact assessment, but I'm still really disheartened that you're still pursuing the eviction of Picasso Preschool. Other community centers have preschools within them. I think that there's an obvious solution here that you should all consider. It doesn't make any sense that a community services district would evict a community service just to build a community center. It doesn't make any logical sense. There's an insufficient number of licensed full-time preschools here on the coast side. It's the only remaining licensed preschool between Monterey and Half Moon Bay. You're really going to impact a lot of young families here. And I'm not just speaking on my own personal behalf. I don't have any skin in this game, but I am really worried about the way that this decision is being made and how you're disregarding a lot of public concern regarding the eviction of Picasso. I really implore you to expand and probably come up with a reasonable solution that is inclusive of young families in this community. I'd really like to see that GCSD support basically a coastside institution that's been here for almost, over 20 years. It doesn't make any logical sense to evict a community service to build a community center. I'm just going to say it again. The lack of childcare availability on the coast is really dire. And I'd like to see that GCSD is in support of children and young families in this community. That's it.
Thank you for your comments, Kate. Are there other comments from the community? All right. Seeing as there are none, did you want to say something?
Yeah, this is in response to, I went to the last Mid-Coast Community Council meeting, and I have been watching Next Door ever since, and there was there were a lot of critical remarks about the process and the overall plan, and I would like to respond to some of those with some numbers. The MCC sent out a comment letter in which they request another 30-day extension of the public comment period for the current document, the initial study mitigated neg deck. And based on the timeline that Director Dye constructed, put together, I came up with some numbers. And first one is, since this development of the park has been discussed, approximately 12,000 letters have been sent out by GCSD regarding this, asking for the public input and receiving public input. This is in the El Granada Census Tract has, 2022, has 2,125 households. So 12,000 written letters and newsletters and postcards has certainly covered the community. There have also been 10 in-person outreach events, including at the school and on the property itself, in which approximately 450 people attended and made comments. Of course, some of those were, maybe a lot of those were repeat customers, as it were. We've received approximately 1,300 written comments on this, and there also have been numerous Parks Advisory Committee meetings on this. I didn't count those up, but the advisory committee was also involved citizens of the district, and one of the main things that they always considered was the park plan, obviously. So I would like to say that I think that GCSD has basically done a heroic effort to involve the community and to get input. And we did community surveys and got back what people wanted to see in the park, and that's what we're planning to build. As Barbara noted, anything that got over 50% support is potentially going to be put in the into the new park. And I want to note that all the park amenities are not going to be constructed at once, and in fact, some of them may never get built, because we need to see how the public responds and see how the park actually works. Personally, I don't think a basketball court, because of the wind, is all that viable, but who knows, it might be. People will play in any kind of conditions. So I think the complaint that there's not been enough outreach to get public input, I think is just flat wrong. We have gone over and above to get the public to tell us what they want, and we have responded to it. And this process has been going on now for, 7 years. And the MCC letters requested another 30-day extension for public comment. Well, based on the public comments I heard at the MCC meeting and that I've seen on Nextdoor in the last few days, it's all the same topics, all the same complaints or questions that the district has dealt with in the last several years. And I can't say that I would favor extending any more comment periods, because we have really gone all out. And nothing's going to stop people after. If we give another 30-day extension, nothing is going to stop a few individuals from coming in and demanding another 30 days and another 30 days. So I think we have to move forward with this environmental document and keep the process moving. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Clark. Director Grant, I apologize to not come back to you right after the public comments. Did you want to say something?
Yes, I have quite a bit to say. So I'll start out with thank you for those comments, Matthew and Barbara. So 12,000 letters were mailed out, yet they were only mailed to ratepayers. I know that's
Not true.
I rent, and I have never received any notification from GCSD, and I've lived here since 2008. Knocking on doors, well, they didn't knock on my door. Heroic effort, you posted 2 8.5 by 11 flyers, one on the sign on the strip and one at the post office, and you had one day ad in the San Mateo Journal. That is not heroic, and it doesn't match your previous outreach where you sent postcards and you had tables set up. So that's not heroic to me. I think this ISM&D is deficient, and one of the biggest reasons is there was never a needs analysis or assessment for a hybrid childcare community center as promised in the October 2022 meeting. And there were no postcards asking if residents supported a hybrid model. So I can't get along with this heroic effort when there wasn't one. Thank you, Chuck, for offering to post a timeline for the park and the community center so that people know when they can comment and what stage it's at. I've had a lot of people contact me saying, how do I comment? How am I supposed to read 400 pages and get back comments in 30 days? It's ridiculous. So we really need to notify the public of when they can comment. And I don't know if those opportunities are when it's before the San Mateo County for the CDP, or when it's through San Mateo County Planning, or is the final ISM&D going to be released to the public and then we'll have a comment period then? Do we have an MCC presentation plan by Montrose? This didn't happen and it was promised. Will there be another comment period after the MCC hosts that meeting? These are questions I have for you. Barbara's right. Over the past year, this park plan has disappeared from public view, and that's our fault. We should have kept it, in the public arena. We should have been attending MCC meetings and telling them what was going on. Our mission is to serve the GCSD community with thoughtful development of parks and recreation facilities and activities for residents of all ages and abilities, with a dedicated focus on environmental stewardship. There's no shame and there's no downside to extend a comment period. We can have a meeting at MCC. This is being steamrolled. Other comments I have. The MCC did ask for an extended comment period. They said that the MCC itself was given inadequate time to read, digest, and lead a community discussion on the ISM&D, which, as you know, is a 170-page document, 400 pages of appendices and exhibits. It also didn't include the cultural resource report, and if there were no significant impacts, why wasn't that released? The window provided for public comment appears to be about the minimum possible. I agree with that. Given that the project has been in the planning process for years and will have a huge impact on the community, a public comment stage of the process seems like an ill-advised stage to rush through. Consequently, the MCC, we are requesting as a gesture of goodwill to both the MCC and surrounding community a 30-day extension of the public comment period so we can solicit more feedback and community participation for the project. I think that we should give an MCC presentation and then have another 30-day comment. If you want to finalize the ISM&D and then give the MCC presentation and then have another comment period, that would be great. There's a lot of issues that have come up. Parking is one of them. So parking is a cumulative public access impact. And people are saying, well, it's not our problem. We let people park on our property, but it's not our problem. We can develop that into a lawn and, they'll go somewhere else. But did anyone reach out to the Harbor District? I mean, this month they had a meeting where they were looking at the Pillar Point RV Park renewal of the lease. Did anyone from GCSD go there and say, hey, maybe you should turn this parking lot back into public parking because we're going to take away that public parking? Did that happen, or is that not something we do?
No one has reached out to the Harbor District for providing parking to the city of Half Moon Bay's beach.
Yeah. That was a missed opportunity. So, the parking's a big issue. And we can debate, oh, we're giving 24 more spots and 10 slanted ones, and we're gonna have 60 cars on Obispo. But parking on Obispo doesn't happen. We do not have any parking on Obispo except at the southern end, which I understand we're gonna put a rec trail through, so that's gonna, delete some of that parking. But there's no other cars on Obispo Road. Right now, it's a frontage road. It's a clear shot. CAL FIRE uses Obispo Road to go to the north in emergencies. They can't go through Highway 1. It's always congested, fogged up by people, looking at Surfers Beach. So they boogie down Obispo Road. They turn left on Avenue Alhambra. They turn left on Capistrano, and they're right on Highway 1 heading north. And so if we have 60 cars parked on Obispo Road, that's an impact to our public services. Another impact to public services is getting rid of our childcare, our only large childcare facility in El Granada. That's a public service, and that should be talked about in this ISM&D. Public safety. That's another thing about that. It's dangerous when people park on Obispo. They park, and then they get out of their cars and cross the street. And people come from Avenue Alhambra going 45. I see that the plan shows like these transparent crosswalks and stop signs, but it's not really called out. So is there a traffic and circulation study that was done that we can release to the public? Seems like there should be. Another thing is the wetland that's not disclosed in the ISM&D. That's an issue with me. I can see it right off my window.
Say that again.
The wetland that is not disclosed in the ISM&D. Some other comments from the public is, have we considered sea level rise? The Burnham Strip's a floodplain, and scientists predict a foot or more in sea level rise by 2050. So they're not sure that's gonna, be a great thing. And then another big thing we don't talk about is the weddings. Is this a community center or is it a recreational center? Because I don't know how weddings fit. I mean, people that live across the street from Casa Preschool, we can hear people at the beach hotel. It just goes right across to us. So if you don't think that having wedding music amplified Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays is going to impact neighbors, you are dead wrong. I would also like to know if there's any active subcommittees that I don't know about, because it seems like there's people that are saying they're GCSD representatives at MCC meetings and on Nextdoor, and I don't know of any subcommittees that we have in place right now. Do we have any? Are there any GCSD representatives besides the SAM?
No, I'm not sure I understand your question. We don't have a secret ad hoc committee or something like that. No.
No, I just, I'm fairly new to the GCSD, so I just wonder if I missed something. When I was on Midcoast Community Council, we had representatives that would attend other meetings, like, somebody would do the Harbor District, someone do GCSD, someone do SAMS. I just don't know if I missed, is there somebody designated to be the representative at MCC or
if there was
Harbor
a committee,
District?
Yeah, if there was a committee formed, Jill, it would be done at a board meeting. So it would be open.
And I know Nancy Marsh has spoken because she's the board president, and I have occasionally shared information, but not just like, this is what's happening. Like, I've posted in my own name on Nextdoor, I posted the MSNBC and MSND right after it came out, because I wanted people to be able to see it. I did not post it in any official capacity, and that was clear the way I posted it. And Hope posts in an official capacity. So the two people who post officially are Nancy and Hope.
Okay, well, I think tonight we need to consider what our timeline is. When will MCC get a presentation? Will there be another public comment period? When will that be? And then if we want to have representatives that attend other meetings, I am for that. I think that we should have had someone at that harbor meeting. I missed it. I feel terrible. I would have attended and said, hey, we need that parking, don't renew this lease. Give us that parking. So that's just something to consider.
I have a question, just one of the points raised, I'm curious about in terms of the MCC asking for additional time. How would we be able to address that if we wanted as a board to decide if we wanted to extend more time for public comments?
You want to take it? And I want to point out before Bill answers that question, we've also been in contact with the county, and they've requested additional time as one of the permitting agencies. They're important, obviously.
I certainly support an extension.
And this just came about.
I don't think it's our call.
So your board hasn't heard.
Actually, I think because it's independent.
The county requested additional time to respond to the ISMND document?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why I say it literally just happened 2 days ago. Ray was in contact with them.
So who decides that?
So 30 days is very standard. Sorry?
Go ahead.
30 days is very standard for an MND. You very rarely see beyond 30 days. You're not even, unlike an EIR, there's no requirement to have written public responses to those comments. What I'll say, though, is that because the county requested, and they're a permitting agency, they requested an additional 30 days, I think it would be good to, I'm recommending the extension of time for 30 days, but staff can do that. The board doesn't have to approve that tonight. Staff can make that decision. I've talked to Chuck about it, and it does make sense to extend it for 30 days, given the county's request. And I think that would satisfy everyone else.
I agree.
Everyone else's request to give that additional time for the public to respond to it. What will come back to the board is the MND, and the board, if it agrees to approve it, will also approve the park project, which will then go forward to the county for the coastal development permit. So that's the process, just so everyone's clear about that.
If I can just jump in, I have the list of permits and approvals that are coming, and I think that might be helpful. So we have the MND and then mitigation measures, which is one thing. And then San Mateo County is going to issue a coastal development permit, a use permit, and that's going to control everything that goes on in the property. So that's going to be publicly noticed, and that's going to set out rules for whether we can have weddings. I mean, the MND analyzes like the worst possible impacts to make sure that it's really thorough. There will be further controls and rules about what goes on the property. So that's the use permit. And then there'll be design review for the buildings, I guess, a grading permit, a stormwater permit, an encroachment permit, a building permit, and then AT&T and Comcast will also be giving permits. The Regional Water Quality Control Board will give a permit for the wetland areas and the NPDES construction permit. And the Army Corps of Engineers will give us 2 permits for the wetlands areas. Well, hopefully they'll give them to us. They will review, and there'll be public notice for pretty much every one of these, Bill, right? Most of these permits require public notice. And the last one is the stream bed alteration agreement for the 2 improved riparian areas. So do most of those have noticing, or do some of them?
Well, the seminal approval is your approval on the project, which there will be a notice meeting for that, and then the coastal development permit from the county. Those are the 2 big steps. And the coastal development permit, obviously, there's notice associated with that. The other approvals, the agencies do those administratively, generally speaking. Regional water, for instance, stream bed alteration agreement, same thing.
So just kind of going back, sorry, before we had this read, if we extend another 30 days based on the county's request that extends the community's opportunity to also provide additional comments.
Correct.
For the next, for additional 30 days.
Correct.
So I just want to make sure that that's clear, right? So we're saying that we are effectively going to be extending the window for the community to continue to provide comments.
Correct.
For the moment we're in right now.
That's correct.
Which will then inform the CEQA process.
That's correct. It's the comment on the CEQA doc.
Right. So just going back to some of the questions that were asked earlier, I think she's no longer on.
She signed off?
Yeah. But to Director Grant, does that address some of your concern?
Yes, I have two other things. So one is for legal counsel. Are we a recreational center or are we a community center per our special district?
This would be a rec center.
So it's a rec center. Okay.
Correct.
And the other thing is, I think we need to figure out when MCC is going to get a presentation. They're pretty upset that nobody has reached out and given a presentation. And if we're extending the comment period, we should do it at the next meeting, the next MCC meeting. And I don't know if you want to have Montrose do it or Ray do it, but somebody needs to go and answer questions.
Yeah, so so to speak to that, Jill, we were trying, the M&D is a technical document, as you know, and, we're talking about the plan as well. So we'll touch base with, now that the comment period was done, now it's still open, but we'll touch base with MCC and set up a meeting with them. And Hope's been in contact with, I think the lead guy is Gus. Hope's been in contact with him over the past month, so we'll reach out tomorrow and set up a meeting with them.
Okay. The MCC did say they asked twice for a meeting and they were denied.
It wasn't denied. We had said that once we get the comments, then we're ready to go to them and discuss the project and receive their comments after we have published the ISMND.
Okay, but Ray, it's really, so this document's huge. And it doesn't even include cultural resources, but it's already 400 pages. And, I read these for a living and it was difficult. And just a layman out there, somebody from the community, they're not going to get through this. They need to be walked through it. And that's why we have MCC walk us through it. And then they comment so they can understand where's the parking being lost and, what can they do? Mm-hmm. Just saying, oh, we're going to give you this document, you read it, you figure it out, and then you comment, and then later we'll give a presentation. It's backwards. So that's what I'm hearing from the community is they need someone to explain it to them.
Understood.
I actually agree with Director Grant that we should be doing a full presentation to the MCC, and I'm also in support. I'm not sure the board decides to extend the comment period, or is it the consultants?
Sounds like you're
Well, yes, we're all in
agreement,
I'm not sure Matthew is, but
Bill
I
said
certainly
we
am.
could do it on the staff level, and we obviously will.
But
do
again,
on
it
the staff level.
sounds to me like there's a process that Ray's trying to uphold, which is that there's an open period, then the period would be closed, and then there was an intention to go to MCC once the open period was closed, and you would then go and brief the MCC, right? Ray, is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
So now that we're extending it for 30 days, it means we'll extend the opportunity to go back to the MCC because we want to still collect more questions from the public. And then you will have that period closed. You'll go back to MCC and have a meeting with them then. Is that correct?
You will have a meeting with them within the next month.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Why are you saying doctor? Dr. Grant, does that sound good to you?
Well, I'm concerned that the presentation will happen and people will have 3 days to comment. There's no shame to extend. We can extend it for a year. I don't want to, but we can do that. We can extend it as long as we want. We can close it. We can reopen it. There's nothing that prevents us from allowing more public comment.
Yeah, and I want to, and to that point, I think this board has been pretty open in accepting public comment, soliciting public comment, doing outreach and whatnot. And we should remember that the actual park draft plan was approved by the board a year ago, April, last year.
As a draft.
That's why I said, draft, right. So yes, and again, to your point, Jill, this isn't a hard 30 days. We're trying to do the outreach, and when we go meet with MCC, we don't want to shortchange anybody because this is a big project and people need to get their comments in.
Okay, so the MCC is meeting on the 26th in less than a week. Is there a way we can contact them and get a presentation on the 26th?
Yeah. Like I said, we'll touch base with Gus tomorrow and arrange.
All right, thanks.
All right. Any other comments from the board? All right. Then we'll move on to report on planned recreation program events.
We're kind of taking it a little bit slow over the summer just because people go on vacations and school is out, so it's a little harder to track people down, but we do have a list of tentative things that we're planning for the fall. I've been in touch with the Coastside Land Trust about doing another nature journaling workshop. One of our former Parks and Rec person with GCSD, Claudia Marshall, has inquired about doing a drawing class with us. We're looking to do some more walks, a history walk, and then we've got some things planned for the fall as well, including a movie night at Quarry Park, and also partnering with San Mateo County Parks for their Fall Fest event in September. And then we're looking into December and possibly seeing about doing something around the holidays as well. So we've got things sort of in the hopper, but we are taking a little bit of a break over the summer.
All right. Thank you. Any comments from the board?
Sounds great. Great job. Hope.
Any comments from the public? All right. Seeing as there are none, we'll move on to item number 2, consideration of policy and resolution for the statewide November 5th, 2024 general election. First item is the 200-word or 400-word limit for candidate statements for GCSD.
And this is something that comes up every 2 years because we have 2-year elections. So the board decides whether the candidate statement will be limited to 200 words or 400 words. And then the next part is who will pay for the statement, the board or the district or the candidate themselves.
All right. And my laptop my thing is not working today, so if there's something I need to read as a resolution.
Well, I'll just say for past elections, and it's kind of generally held true for maybe the past 10 years, we've limited the statement to 200 words, and the district paid for each candidate's statement to encourage people to run.
I think that's worked really well. I've run 5 times, and 200 words doesn't sound like much, but 400 words turns out to be a lot when you try to write that statement. And the last page of this resolution, if you look at it, there's approximately 194 words on that page. So that gives you some idea. I don't know, I forgot how you're supposed to count things in parentheses and dates, but it's about 194. So I think that's worked in the past, and it will work well, and that it's better there is some cost involved, and so I think it's better that the district pay for this at the county level, because especially if it's 400 words, the county cost is enough that it would deter some people who would maybe be interested.
I agree with that. I think Director Grant has her hand up again.
Dr. Grant?
Well, I actually, thank you, Matthew. I was actually going to ask Matthew what he thought of that, because he was, I expect you to run again, and now I know you think you are pro 200 words, so I'm on board with that. I have a question about people who do want to run. How do they know the process? Is there someone they can contact from GCSD, or
Yeah, you actually go.
It's not complicated.
Yeah, you actually go through the county elections office. I don't know, Hope, if you're up to speed on, you haven't done, Hope hasn't done an election yet.
I can speak to it. The county elections people are great. They're incredibly helpful. They'll walk you through it. If you're confused about something and you shoot them an email, you get an answer right away that's clear with an answer. I have to say, they're just a pleasure to work with. So there is a resource out there for people who want to run.
I completely agree. The county people are totally useful, and they'll scratch out things if you did something incorrectly and put in the right thing for you, or tell you what it is anyway, so, yeah.
And there's also a workshop coming up. There's a county workshop for potential candidates.
Right, there are, yeah, I think they do that every 2 years as well.
Once we have the resolution done, once we have this resolution done, I'll actually update our website on the homepage and put information about the process and what needs to be done, as well as link to those various, I think they're both Zoom, both those candidate meetings are going to be via Zoom. So there will be information once we have established this and I've gotten that first step done with the county.
Fantastic, thanks all.
Move approval of resolution number 2024 I need to do more than
Dash 02.
You're looking like I have to do more than that.
Huh?
Do I have to read the title or anything?
No, we need public comment. Yeah, I didn't vote yet.
I know, but you could make the motion and then have more public.
Yeah.
Yes. Are there any comments from the public? All right, seeing as there are none, we had Director Dye make a motion to approve the resolution.
Well, second.
All right.
Would like to comment on that, am I correct in assuming that we will also, can't put it in the half moon bay review because it's not on paper anymore, and I don't know how many people actually look at it, but we will post at the post office and put on social media that there is an election, right? Yes.
Okay. All right, so seconded by Director Clark.
Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Randall?
Aye.
Director Dye?
Yes.
Director Grant?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0.
Ooh, great. All right, we'll move on to item number 3.
Can I, actually, would you mind if we move the audit up one, because we have our auditors here, and if we can go ahead and move it up so that he's not waiting quite so long.
Sure, so we will move up to item number 4 next, which is the approval of audited district financial statements for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me. We'll go ahead and go through the audit for 2023. I'm going to see if I can share my screen with you.
Chris, can you introduce yourself too?
I'm sorry. Back out of that. Yes, my name is Christopher Brown. I'm the managing partner for CJ Brown and Company CPAs. We've been doing this engagement for one prior year. Just a little bit about the firm, just real quick. Special districts are our specialty. That sounds kind of corny, but that's essentially what we do. We have approximately 80 special district clients throughout the state of California.
All right, thanks.
All right. Let me go ahead and share this. All right. One moment. Can you see the screen? Can you see the presentation on the screen?
Yeah, you're up. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. Let me go ahead and scroll through this. Just a real quick run over what an audit is and what we're doing. But first, the audit was performed in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America. So there's basically guidance on how audits are performed. They are monitored by reviewing agencies or reviewing auditors that we actually get audited ourselves. We must follow those rules when performing an audit itself. As far as the parts of an audit, it's typically broke up into two different time periods, one being interim or before your year end and after. The interim period, we're basically looking at risk of the audit, the risk of potential errors and potential fraud. We're looking at your procedures. We're testing various cycles within your accounting system. And from that information, we prepare the audit programs, which leads us into the next part of it, which is the year end, by which we're agreeing the balances in your trial balance, your own financial statements to the supporting documentation. In addition to that, we're performing an analysis of the relationships between various accounts, various processes within your financial statement. So that was a very short explanation of a very long process. So.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay. I'm sorry, did you have a question?
Well, I had a question, which is, looking through this, it looks like we're doing 2 years in one of audit in one document.
Yes, yes.
And can you explain the as restated aspect of both of them?
Yes, I'd love to. Okay, so the financial statement itself is not necessarily for you, the board. It's not for management. You have your own internal financials to review, and I'm sure you do that on a monthly basis. This document here is really intended for individuals within the district itself, governmental agencies that rely on your information, and it's been deemed that comparative information is a very valuable tool when somebody is evaluating the operations of any entity, whether it's private or governmental. So pretty much the standard, when possible, is to prepare or show 2 years and then compare them together so an individual can see what happened between the 2 years. I'll just, as a side note, to take it to one level more, is some districts apply for the GFOA, or the Government Finance Officers Award, on an annual basis. And there are certain guidelines with regard to that, which actually require 3 years of comparative information within the management's discussion and analysis. So basically the comparative, the 2 years, is best practices in reporting. Now, getting back to your question as far as restated, whenever some additional information comes to an entity's attention, it could be most anything of a material nature. If it affects a prior year's financial statement, the thing you do is you restate the prior year's financials to take into account that activity, action, whatever it was that came to your attention. You restate the prior year's net position, essentially, and show whatever the cause was within your financial statement. It's going to take me just a second to find it, if you wish me to locate it within the financial statement itself. Bear with me just a second. Okay, so in note 8 to the financial statements, there's a discussion of basically what this is, and I'm just going to do a little reading. In fiscal year 2023, the district determined did not properly accrue amounts for excess ERAF, okay, from the county of San Mateo for the fiscal years 21 and 22. So when additional information came to light, it was recalculated. Those amounts have been run through your financial statement and are properly stated. And if you happen to have the financials in front of you, you can see note 8. It basically takes what the net position was in the prior year, or at the beginning of the prior year, then the effects of the change, and comes up to an ending balance. So basically, it's correcting for additional information that has come to light.
All right. Great.
Okay?
Yep, thanks.
All right. So with regard to the next slide, you see here the reports. There are two reports that come out of the audit, one being the financial statement, the other one being management's discussion and analysis. Within the financial report is the auditor's opinion, and what you see here is just kind of a snippet of, actually, this isn't the exact language, but this is pretty much, in essence, what is in the auditor's report. And it says that we're providing you an unmodified opinion. What that means is that we feel that it is a clean opinion for 2023. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the Granada Community Services District as of June 30th, 2023. So clean opinion there. The other document I refer to is the management report. The management report is the auditor's, it gives the auditor the opportunity to discuss with you, the board. The board is my boss. It's not management, it is you. It is your best interest we have in mind when we're performing the audit, and we're providing this presentation. I'm discussing it with you essentially. Within the management report, it gives us the opportunity to bring to your attention any matters that we feel of a material nature should come to your attention. Certain policies, procedures, things like that, that we feel that really need to come to a higher level. And I'm happy to say that there were no reportable items to note in 2023. Kind of a side note to that, if we do come across items that we feel need to be elevated to the board's attention, we will bring that to you very early in the process. We will contact board representative, bring it to their attention, and if meetings are required to basically go through the issue, resolve the issue, that will be done very, very early in the process. It wouldn't be, you wouldn't find out about it at this meeting. Basically, in my presentation, there's a long process involved in bringing these to your attention. But there again, I'm happy to say that there were no reportable items to note in 22-23. Okay. The management report's a pretty good document to look at. If you haven't looked at it, I definitely recommend you take a look at it. This next slide here is the condensed statements of net position. I won't spend a lot of time on the numbers. I'm sure you've seen these numbers for quite a while here. This table itself is in the management's discussion and analysis in the financial statement. Condensed statement of net position, it's essentially assets, liabilities, and such, in net position. We can see the total assets increased approximately 630,000 and change there. Deferred outflows of resources increased approximately 44,465. That relates primarily to, or in your case, entirely to pension liability. This represents amounts, if I was to make it a very, very simple explanation, there's a lot more to it, but these are amounts that would be considered to be applied against the liability in the next year, okay? There's more to it, but that's probably a good way of looking at it. With regard to the liabilities, they're up approximately 197,000. Deferred inflows of resources, very similar deferred outflows, but on the opposite side. These amounts are, could be, depends on next year's actuarial, could be applied to the liability. So it's kind of a holding spot, let's put it that way. The last item we have here is net position. The net position, it's kind of like your net worth. It's your assets, deferred outflows of resources, minus your liabilities, minus your deferred inflows of resources. This is your net worth here. And it's broken out into what you've invested in your capital assets. So basically the cost of your assets, if you had debt against it, it would reflect that, and any accumulated depreciation on your assets. Of course, every year assets are depreciated in a systematic way. So this is basically showing you what they're worth from an accounting viewpoint. Restricted is another aspect of a net position, and it's essentially amounts that are being held for capital projects and sometimes for debt payment. So you can see there's actually a decrease from year to year there. Unrestricted, we can see an increase in unrestricted. And unrestricted is basically what's left over. It doesn't represent cash. It basically represents, there again, what's left over from your net worth. And one of the things that I tend to look at over a long period of time is the trends in unrestricted net position. I always like to see, all things being equal, an improvement from year to year in net position, in your unrestricted net position. Of course, there are going to be those times, such as when a new accounting pronouncement comes into play that may affect your net position. GASB 68, when pension was put on the books, had that effect. It tended to bring down net position. But there again, all things being equal, I like to see an improvement from year to year. And what that tells me, big picture, plays into the next couple of slides that we're going to look at. And that has more to do with the way the entity is being operated, the rate structures, an improvement in these numbers from year to year give the board more opportunity to look at their reserve policies for capital improvements and such. It can also come into play with regard to their rate structure and any subsidies that might be considered with regard to that. But we can see an improvement from the prior year. So I'm going to go to a narrative here. This narrative applies to the next table. So I'm basically going to read through this. We'll go through this and I'll go to the next table. And essentially, I'll be done with my presentation. But the net position of the district, and net position is kind of like net income, okay? Net position increased by 547,000 to that 18,011,000 and change from ongoing operations. Total revenues increased by 893,000 to that 4.8 million. Now, revenues are broken into two types of categories primarily. There's operating and non-operating. Operating revenues are essentially going to be what you do for a living. It's going to be providing your services, the intent of the organization, wastewater, collecting fees for activities and things like that. But we can see operating revenues increased by 302,000 to that 2.1 million due to increases of 207,000 in sewer service charges and 94,000 in connection fees. So combination of those in the big picture make up most of that 302,000. Non-operating revenues are going to be ancillary items. They're going to be things like interest on investments. It's going to be things like property taxes, certain assessments and such. And we can see that non-operating revenues increased by 591,000 to that 2.69 million. Things that made up a good portion of that were increases of 267,000 in investment in the sewer authority. So basically the operations of that, your proportional share of that, you recognized 267,000 with regard to that. Sewer service, 218,000 in investment returns. Most districts had negative returns in the prior year. They're seeing positive returns in the current year, and you're essentially seeing those changes there as well. 160,000 in property tax increases, 67,000 in other non-operating revenues that are not defined within the table that I'm going to show you. 51,000 in investment income from the assessment district, offset decrease of approximately 174,000 in the assessment district revenues itself. With regard to expenses, total expenses increased by 565,000. Operating expenses, there again, these are going to be expenses that are directly related to your operations themselves. They increased approximately 530,000, let's say 504,000. to that 3.9 million due to increases of 242,000 in parks and recreation, 213,000 in administrative and general expenses, 81,000 in infrastructure repair, 34,000 in sewage treatment, and 12,000 in sewage environmental compliance, which was offset, there again, the opposite direction, decrease in 44,000 in sewage administration and 35,000 in sewage collection expenses. Okay, I just threw a whole bunch of numbers at you, but we can see that a fair amount of your increase in net position had to do, of course, your operations played a huge part in it, but you're kind of matching those revenues and expenses. A lot of it had to do with these increases in some of your non-operating revenues. So that's where a lot of that activity in the increase came from. Now here's the table that basically illustrates what we just went over. And of course we can see again, revenues, expenses by operating, non-operating and such. And again, we can see total revenues increased by that 893,000, total expenses increased by that 565,000. Change in net position, there again, this is kind of like net income, increased 547,000. Bottom line, your net position at the end of the year, kind of like net worth, is 18,011,694. So I just threw a lot of numbers at you. I'll kind of recap. We were able to provide you with an unmodified opinion, clean opinion. Happy to report that we did not identify any reportable conditions. The results of your operations we can see right here. We can see the change from the prior year as an example, positive returns there. Based on that, I will hand it back to you. And let me know if I should stop sharing or if you want me to keep it up here.
Yeah, I think you can stop sharing.
There we go.
The board.
No, thank you very much. Very good report. Nice to have a nice clean audit.
Yes. And that's kind of the important part, like Chris said, it's a clean audit, no reservations, and districts in good financial condition.
Any comments from the public? All right, so do we have a resolution or a
Motion to
motion?
approve.
Thank you. Motion to approve the audited financial statements.
I move that we approve the audited financial statements
Second.
for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023.
All right, seconded by Director Clark.
Okay. Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Randall?
Aye.
Director Dye?
Aye.
Director Grant?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so then let's move back up to our public hearing consideration of Granada Community Services District fiscal year 23-24 sewer and parks and recreation budgets. We first had an open public hearing and request for comment on the budget. Any comments from the public, right? That's all we're doing. Yeah.
Yep.
Open the public hearing.
Yeah, so open the public hearing. If there are any comments from the public on the budget?
Close the public hearing.
Seeing as there are none, we'll close the public hearing and move to approve and adopt the budget for fiscal year 2020. Oops, sorry,
I'm sorry, Jen, I think I missed my opportunity.
no worries. I don't think I said it correctly, probably. So does the board have any comments?
I do.
Go for it.
I just want to know, so I'm looking at Parks and Rec, our revenues. One of them is ERAF refund. Is that, it seems like I heard that was going to stop at some point. Is that correct?
Well, that's the rumor, Jill, every year. And they actually brought there was a lawsuit concerning it a year or two ago, Bill?
Yes.
On that, yeah, so basically what that is, we had our property tax locked in by Prop 13, whatever that is, 25, 30 years, 35 years ago now, probably. And over the course of time, they've shifted some of that property tax revenue we receive to the schools. So that's what ERAF is. And this is a unique county, if you will. There's only a few in California who, if they collect too much tax dollars, they actually fill the coffers in the schools, believe it or not, and then give us some back in a kind of a simplistic way. So, the schools are seeing that money not come to them and whatnot, so there's a bunch of lawsuits, and I've followed it from afar, but I don't know, nothing's been settled. But for the short term, we will still be getting that money, yes.
It's not discretionary for us.
Right, it's not discretionary, and it grows, you all saw on the audit, property taxes have increased from $750 to $850 to $950,000 a year, just the property taxes. ERAF is from, that return back to us is $400 to $550 over the last few years, so it's a lot of money.
And then what can that, I'm sorry, is that ERAF money required to be spent in a certain way or for certain items?
It's basically considered property tax, so it's not required to be spent in anything. Most, if you were like, say, the city of Half Moon Bay, you're discretionary. Most people try and take the property tax money and put it to a power, in our case, Parks and Recreation, which can't be funded by sewer service fees and things like that. So if we needed more money for our sewer side, basically we would raise rates to match that, and you try and take that property tax money and use it for things like Parks and Rec, which doesn't have a revenue source. You can't assess enough fees anyway. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And so on the budget, I just give a quick explanation on that. Kind of some of the highlights from the budget. Obviously, we increased the sewer service charge by $100 per ERU as part of our 3-year increase. So we're getting $300,000+ more in sewer service charge. We all know interest rates are going up. We were at 0.5%, now we're at 5%. So that's good news. Nothing much, our on page 12 there. Our SAM costs, SAM costs are going up each year, but the good news is our flows have been going down each year. So we're a smaller percentage of an increasing cost, so that's the good news. And then if you look at page 13, I've done a little different way of reporting this year, so it's easy for you all to see the true bottom line of how much we're sending to reserves. So on page 13, you see we're sending $590,000 to reserves. That may sound like a lot on the surface, but with Sam teed up for a $10 million project and our share being $2 million, that will go quick. So I think that's a good, healthy change. We'll also be looking this year at a sewer service charge report. We started one in the early part of the year, and after meeting with our consultant, we looked at our numbers and decided we could stick with the current increase that we have in place, and we'll look next year what we need to do. And then, if you look at page 14, we've got our beginning balance transfer from reserve and whatnot. So I'm predicting we'll finish the year with $3.5 million. Again, if the SAM project comes through, and it will in a year and a half, 2 years, that'll take $2 million out of that. So it's, we'll lose 60%, whatever that number is, of our funds. And then the Parks and Rec, property tax allocation, $940,000. I look at 5 years of increase. Estimated professional services, $125,000. This is the first year we've split administrative overhead. Well, this is the first year you're seeing it on this budget, but if you look at my next page, I show you how I calculated past year's budgets. Page 16 is a really complicated spreadsheet, which caused me no loss of brain cells. But I tried to go back over the 10 years and assess how much time we spent on Parks and Rec, what was their fair allocation of overhead costs and things like that. And then page 17 is a 5-year look-ahead budget. I've highlighted a few of the things there. I'm just predicting a 5% inflation rate. ERAF is discretionary with your board. SAM infrastructure, you can see in 25-26 year, I budgeted $1.5 million for that year's share of that $2 million we're talking about. It just kind of does a look ahead so you can see where our reserves really drop and then they start building back up again. So that was my fast-paced, simple conversation. Are there any questions on that?
Last month, you spoke about the fact that you were going to be creating greater delineation between the Parks and Rec and sewer for this budget.
Right.
We had that discussion last time. Right?
Yes, and that's what that complicated
Thank you for doing
spreadsheet
that.
is.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's actually really helpful.
And we're going to try and, I think I put in my memo, we're going to work with our accounting firm to really delineate as we go from now here on. And before, we didn't do a lot of Parks and Rec stuff, and now we're obviously deep into it.
Great.
I think it should be stated every time that, for the public, that 3/4 of our sewer budget goes directly to SAM.
Yes.
We're not, we're replacing our pipes and work on our collection system, but 3/4 of it goes to SAM, and that's going to always continue. And as you mentioned, they have a major project they have to fund, and maybe more of it's going to go to SAM.
Any other comments from the board?
I have one quick switch. I noticed that the administrative budget for the year ahead is increased by $57,000, due mainly to an increase in predicted legal expenses related to the City of Half Moon Bay's IPS lawsuit. So money that would be really nice if it didn't have to be spent.
Yeah, our GCSD expenses, like Matthew said, we're only 25% of the budget. But yeah, so we're generally pretty flat. We might go up with inflation, the raises to the people here and whatnot, so.
It looks like we have a comment from the public.
Janet?
Come up here, there you go. Oh, you just
Janet, you're
muted
muted,
yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the time spent on these financial. I had a question in regard to Jill's question on discretionary funding, which is, he said that the Park and Rec does not have a revenue source. It's a discretionary property tax money. So my concern, which is one of the big concerns with this community center, is where is the source of revenue for this community center? I haven't reviewed all these financial statements that were presented, and they appear to be very thorough, and I will do that. But it appears to me that a lot of this funding for the community center, building it, developing it, and then maintaining it, is coming from a discretionary property tax source. And so what if that goes away? I mean, there's a lot of friction in the community regarding new bonds, a lot of friction regarding property taxes, et cetera. So where's the funds coming from for the community center? And are they in the financial report as a contingency liability?
Yeah, and let me clarify that. It is not discretion. The property tax money we receive is not discretionary. It's set in stone by the Prop 13, sorry. So we basically continue to get our share of the 1% property tax that you all pay. So we are going to continue to get that unless they change the Constitution. The discretionary part is how that ERAF refund, which is a separate part of the property tax, is allocated between Parks and Rec and sewer. So we do have a steady stream, $950,000 predicted for this coming year, which, if you're looking at the agenda, is on page 15, that top right number, that $940,000. So that's not discretionary, it's guaranteed by the California Constitution, our share of that.
Okay, so that's the future projection on the property tax, but we may have to You're okay. And then we may have to refund the ERAF. Do we know what the potential of the refund contingency is?
It wouldn't be a refund, and again, that's also part of the Prop 13 and whatnot. It'd be if someone is successful in a lawsuit and they say, no, we shouldn't reshift it. So we're not refunding anything. It might dry up in the future, but that's complete conjecture. I have no idea what will happen in the future.
Right, but it's equal conjecture when you have a lawsuit going to say that one party is going to prevail or not, and that you don't have to have a contingency insofar as the quote funds drying up, close quote, correct?
No, but I think you're saying that there's no, if the funds stop, the funds will stop if there's no refunding of the funds that have been distributed.
Okay.
Yeah, if ERAF went away, we would still be basically guaranteed $1 million a year, plus or minus.
Right.
In park,
Okay.
in park revenue.
And park revenue. And then, so without the community center development, how much funds do we have left over of the $1 million a year for the development of the community center that you folks want to do, and the maintenance of it, et cetera? Do we have to find a new source of funding such as bonds?
No, so that's pending the future financial plan once we get through the permitting process and whatnot. But we do have a reserve in the parks balance, which is, again, if you're looking at the same page 15 at that bottom right-hand corner. So we're predicting we'll finish up the year with about $2.3 million in reserves and an ongoing plus or minus $1 million a year in property tax revenue to fund parks.
Okay, so if I understand it, then the public will be allowed to comment further when we talk about financing if this passes through permitting, et cetera, and we'll be provided with numbers and any deficits and how we're going to maintain this. It's a fire zone, it's a wetland zone, there's a lot of costs. From what you're proposing, we're going to need security, tremendous costs. So when will we find out about that?
That'll be part of after the permitting process gets through for the actual park plan. That will be one of the steps that I told, I think her name was DJ Armstrong, we would put up on the website.
Yeah, well, isn't that a little bit the cart before the horse? I mean, if I'm a community member and I'm asked to approve something and then potentially have a bond running against me, or have a project that's approved and permitted and all these funds are spent to getting these approvals and permits, and then we don't have sufficient funds to maintain or operate it or construct it. Isn't that an important fact for me to know?
Yeah, yes, it is, but if no one's talking about bonding, and if bonding came about and there's no plans for that, it would be have a vote of the people, depending on what kind of bond we did in assessment district, Melrose district, something like that.
And we've never really talked about a bond. So,
Okay,
yes.
Well, is there any page in your financial report where I can see the predictions for future financial costs associated with this development of the community center?
Well, the board hasn't decided on the pace of phasing of that project, because there's the recreation center and then there's the parks project, and I think as one of the board members mentioned earlier, that will be done in phases, and that's, we're already only in the preliminary draft project design phase and environmental permitting.
Right, but my grave concern is that nothing is being discussed in the financials, be it by way of footnote or otherwise, of future projectional costs should this proposal to develop the Burnham Strip, including a community center, be passed. And the public is not aware of the potential cost by way of footnote or otherwise, despite whether it's going to be done in phases or not. And I think that's a very important fact. And why is it not included in a footnote?
Because
isn't that
on the phasing, and so if the board decided to just build a village green, it'd be a completely different set of operating expenses from expanding a recreation center.
but are you not asking the public to support something that you have no cost projections for? And do not generally accepted accounting principles require that you footnote any projected long-term expenses, contingent or otherwise?
I can't answer.
Yes, sir. You don't know. Okay. Well, this is my grave concern. And, $1 million in revenue a year that you say is the 1% property taxes that we're getting is a slight sum considering the obligations that are currently. My next question I have is that when you allocate liabilities.
I apologize, but I do want to honor the fact that I think we've had over 3 minutes in comments from you.
Okay, great. I will appear at the next meeting. Thank you.
And just to say, we're going to have to do a detailed financial plan. And this is probably going to cost more than it was when we got direction from this community to start planning a park and working with them on what people want. We're going to look for grants. We're going to look, well, you are right. These numbers are important, but the preliminary, and we don't have anything done, but we've talked to various other community centers and parks and gotten numbers, and $1 million a year will pay for a lot of maintenance. So, and I don't want to get into a back and forth because that's not what this meeting's about. It's not agendized for that. So we really shouldn't even be having a big discussion of that. But it's something that's important. I think you're right. It's important and it's on the list of things.
Thank you for your response. I just want to know if generally accepted accounting principles require us to have this contingent liability on the books. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just ask a question for my own edification? Would we, the project hasn't necessarily been approved at this point.
I was going to point that out, right?
Isn't it premature to have a contingency for a project that's not been approved in our budget?
The action we took earlier tonight is approving an environmental document for a proposed draft project, is by no means approving a project that's far down the line.
So once we have an approved project, then of course it would be reflected in a budget on contingency or line item or otherwise basis.
And they'll go hand in hand. The approval of what project you approve will be hand in hand with financials and what we can support.
Correct. Okay. So we are in line with what would be required of us because we do not have an approved project yet. And so therefore what's represented here reflects our current set of approved initiatives.
Correct. It's a one-year budget.
Correct. All right. Thank you very much. So with that, I will ask for a motion to approve our budget for fiscal year 2023-2024.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Can we have a vote?
Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Randall?
Aye.
Director Dye?
Aye.
Director Grant?
Yes.
Budget's approved 4-0.
And just one more comment. Thank you. This is very clear and easy to read. And I think a big step forward that now we have, to some of these issues, we have the parks separated and it's really clear to look at where how the expenses are being funded.
Great, thank you. Moving on to our next item, engineers report.
Does anyone have any questions? It's a report from engineer John Rayner.
Which is that general services line item increased in the GCSD budget, and one of the reasons is that John Rayner, our engineer, is playing a bigger role in looking at some of the proposals at SAM. He's not approving them, but he is providing his expertise so that we can make good decisions in terms of our interactions with SAM. So that's a good thing. He's doing a good job.
Any comments from the public? All right, and we move on. Report on sewer authority mid-coast side meetings.
Yes, go ahead. Be quick.
The meeting on Monday, April 22nd was basically not much happened.
Except for the big surprise.
Is that April?
April.
Oh, no, that was May, sorry.
Yeah, it was Oh, this was the meeting that went like 32 minutes, and really not much happened. The quarterly financial report was accepted by the board, and we got news on what the SAM field crews were out working in mostly the Montara pump station area, and that was about it. Then the meeting of May 13th, this one, we had a discussion of the proposed state initiative, the so-called Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act. And I was going to say more than that, but that just got kicked off the ballot by the state Supreme Court today.
Yay.
Correct.
So that was the, basically, well, Sam was considering writing a letter and taking a stand against it, and did so, I believe, but now that's all moot. Meeting of June 10th. That was mostly focused on the repair work that is required by a court decree at, by ERF. And so the work had begun on replacing the Princeton pump station, and that's been going relatively well, but it's been slowed down by lack of some equipment and supplies that have been delayed in delivery. So that's actually still going on. We had an interesting attorney's report at that meeting that it was like an alert that apparently the federal EPA is considering trying to get wastewater treatment plants to address the PFOA and PFOS issue, the so-called forever toxic chemicals, which would entirely change the industry and make it fantastically more expensive. Also the public and specialist concerns about microplastics being everywhere in humans and in plants and in babies and in everything. There's also apparently was some talk about making the wastewater plants remove all microplastics as well as the PFOA and PFOS things, and there's either one of those would be fantastically expensive, and probably you couldn't afford to pay for food because you'd have to pay for getting rid of this stuff. So it's
You survive on the forever chemicals in your body.
yeah, that's what we need, is forever survival chemical.
Well, and can I just say the big surprise at the last meeting was that Half Moon Bay passed a budget that included the money to do the Montara pipeline.
Well, look at that.
So that's.
The first portion.
The first portion, but $3 million, their share of $3 million. And so that allowed us to pass the budget and get the work done, and the Princeton Pump Station's almost done. So things are getting
Way to
done.
bury the lead.
I thought that was, they only passed for the work that's already going on in Sam's ITS in Montara, not the whole thing.
No, right.
But the $3 million
For the year ahead.
coming year for SAM is all spent on the SAM IPS in Montara.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was very exciting to find out that
Because they had rejected it
Yeah.
a few other times, so.
and we're all under another lawsuit, so.
I was surprised when I went to the meeting to check. I didn't believe it.
I didn't mean to jump in there, but, hey.
Anything else?
No, that's it on Sam.
And so also on SAM, Jen, as part two of that, SAM asked us to pass resolutions for their record keeping that showed we approved the budget. We don't have to do that per the terms of the JPA, but they asked for it. Bob texted me or emailed me and said, could you do this? So on the agenda, are these resolutions for your board's consideration and approval.
This one on page 95?
Yep.
All right. So, do I need to read it?
No, the motion I'd look for is.
To approve resolution number 2024-03, a resolution approving the sewer authority mid-coast side general budget for fiscal year 2024.
And you can bundle in the next resolution, which is approving the contract collection service budget as well.
Sorry, I'm sorry,
We're just bundling in the next resolution,
Yes,
approving the contract
bundling the next,
service.
a resolution approving the sewer authority mid-coast side contract collection service. This is budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 as well. I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, can we have a vote?
Did we get public comment?
Oh, do we have public comments? Any comments? No comments. All right.
We've already voted to approve it, so, but this is just for their files.
All right.
Wait, but we need to do a roll call.
So we do, yeah.
Yes, get a roll call.
Can we do them both at once? or do we-
Yes.
Yeah, we bundled it.
All right.
So
Director
efficient.
Clark.
Aye.
Director Randall.
Yes.
Director Dye.
Aye.
Director Grant.
Yes.
Okay, both resolutions pass 4-0.
Fantastic. All right, now, remind me on the consent agenda, do we have to go through each thing or do it as lump sum?
No.
No.
So is there any update, anything to be said on the consent agenda?
This is a private residence, item number 12.
Yeah, it's, well, there was a class 3 main line extension. It was about 14 feet.
To go to somebody's house.
Yeah, just to go to somebody's house.
Thanks.
Any public comments? All right, moving forward, any committee reports?
Wait, I move approval of the consent agenda.
Oh, sorry, we have to approve that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Second.
Kidding.
I mess it up all the time.
Do the roll call. Director Clark.
Aye.
Director Randall.
Yes.
Director Dye.
Aye.
Director Grant.
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda passes 4-0.
Any committee reports this cycle? No. No reports? All right. Any information calendar, attorney's report?
As Matthew mentioned, the Supreme Court knocked out the Business Roundtable's initiative today in a resounding unanimous opinion, so.
Do we have to comment on that?
No.
General manager's report?
Nothing further?
All right. Administrative staff report?
Nothing further.
And do we have any future agenda items?
I'd like to speak on one.
Yes.
So, one of the future agenda items which I brought forth was the Burnham Strip Natural Resource Management Plan from 2017. So, just for information, we are not subject to CAL FIRE mowing. The ordinance doesn't apply to us. So I've been in contact with CAL FIRE and they've agreed that they will no longer be sending us those notices. The reason, and I talked to our legal counsel about this a couple months ago, but the reason why is we're a public agency. This property has its own management plan and we have ESHA, we have sensitive areas. So they're not going to be overseeing us mowing. The only reason we would mow is if we decided that it would be advantageous for us to mow and, and it's something that we want to do to get rid of invasive species. So we don't need to depend on that anymore. Jen, I just wanted to ask you as another new member, do you know what I'm talking about, the Burnham Strip Natural Resource Management Plan?
I do not.
Okay. Hope, can you send that to Jen?
Thank you.
Okay, so this was a plan RCD did in 2017. It's one of the documents I refer to when I say we have a wetland on the property because they mapped it. So the purpose of this management plan is to provide us, GCSD, with the inventory of natural resources, and they recommended steps for us to protect and enhance our natural resource values. So they gave us a lot of recommendations, and one of them is mowing. But there's other things. There's mechanical control, there's hand pulling, digging, suffocation, solarization. There's chemical control. For example, we have about 50 clumps of the jabata grass right now. And those are really hard to get rid of. You can try herbicides, but the best way is just to get a mini excavator and turn them upside down. But they're spreading. There's about 50 now, so that's a problem. Other things RCD recommended was grazing, like using the goats out there, which would be super fun. Everybody would love that. So I'm concerned that we haven't implemented the recommendations in this management plan. We've really done nothing since 2018 when we removed some invasive trees from the riparian corridor. And I have found right now this year a really big problem. That white garden snail is sometimes called the Italian white snail. Let's see, I have one right here. I don't know if you can see this little tiny thing. So there's thousands of these along the northern border. If you walk along Obispo Road, just step off the pavement and walk along looking at the vegetation, and you'll find thousands of these. And they're serious pests. There's something that that our county tracks, and we need to think about this when we do construction. We need to have some mitigation so that equipment leaving our project doesn't take these snails with it to other places. So I just want to let you know that this little creature has over 4,500 eggs every time it breeds. So it's just incredibly difficult to get rid of. And now we got a real problem. So I'm wondering if we can put this on the agenda at some point. Maybe we even want to have a subcommittee of a couple people who want to work with RCD to get some management in place. One of the things is we have beach strawberry growing, and it's about 1,000 square feet. It wasn't in Montrose's report, but it's there. And that's protected. And so we should really be protecting that area and enhancing it. Sorry.
So we have on line 4, I think, the RCD management plan review for either July or August. So it sounds like we should have this as a formal agenda item for next month or August. I'll determine when makes the most sense, so we can cover all these things in detail. These are all great points.
Just so you know, we did a eradication program on the white snail about 3 or 4 years ago. We had signs, we worked on it. We pretty well got rid of them from the area where they were near our parking lot, but Caltrans refused to do anything about the right-of-way.
Okay.
And it was full of snails.
I'm gonna pause us.
Okay.
Because we're starting to have the talk conversation.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, great.
Just so you know, there was a program. We did best resources in time.
And there's the other side of Obispo, too.
Yeah. Now, yeah.
That doesn't have any snails, the eucalyptus.
Okay, well, you're right. Move on.
right,
I just
move
want
on.
people to know we
We'll
did.
talk about it officially on an agenda in either July or August.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
All right, amazing. And we have any additional future agenda items?
If
Great.
anything comes up, just email us.
All right, we are going to adjourn to closed session at this point. Do I just go, I'll just hit the thing?
Sure.
All right, we are going to closed session right now at 8:52. Jeez.
Can we take a 5-minute break, because we're going to have PCTV pack up?
Sure, so we'll take a 5-minute break.
And hope you might want to look in the files and see if there's a white snail eradication program that we developed.
I have, yeah.
You have it?
we
Okay,
have it.
good.
Thank you for everyone who joined us this evening. Jill, you're staying on?
Jill, you can just stay, yeah.
I'll just stay on.
Yeah.